truly have an importance in the process of accompanying the work of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in 8 great codes. In the first place, a code of justice that checks in a wide way all of the elements related with the administration of justice, a just justice that is truthful for all to feel that the justice in Venezuela does not obey the guidelines of who has an influence or who doesn't have an influence, especially to these sectors that need it the most, that many times suffer the consequence, the direct consequence of not being able to defend themselves. It is our obligation as deputies to give the tools to all the population for them to feel defended and taken care of, and they also feel that the justice system is to do that, to administer justice and not to administer injustices. New social code, if something has characterized what has happened with the Bolivarian Revolution, and we of course reivindicated, it has been to bring the reivindications that were historically pushed for the great majorities of the population. That is why a new social code where all the laws of protection, absolutely all of them, the laws of protection of women, of our original people, of our young, the laws of protection of our farmers, the laws of protection of our scientists, the laws of protection of the family, and all the laws that are promoted for the protection of the people to be organized in a big social code, especially, of course, a new economical code and of commerce. We have approved law related to the digital economy, and it turns out that that digital economy did not existed, not even in the books of science fiction. All that was later developed in the matter of digital commerce and in the matters of cybersecurity for the economy. Necessarily, we have to, in this legislature, approve a new code of commerce, a code of direct democracy and communal power, that I would say, and a deep power, no matter the modality, the way. If there is a proposal that is alternative, where ways of social organization and ways of popular organization want also to be part of the creation of this code of direct democracy, well, good. That is why this parliament and these sections exist, for us to sit, to build the new laws that the republic requires. A new civil code. The civil code that we have has many bandages that are used by lawyers, call them very scrupulous not to say what I truly believe of them, so they use these small holes in the code, and in this way they look to win the trials and prejudicate people and families. A code that is much clear and coherent and simple of being able to applied. The taking care of our environment, we believe that we have to authorize not a group of laws but a true code for the protection of our environment, the code of integral protection of the Venezuelan family, but of the family and their condition, their daily condition, because many times we speak and we redact things that are not understandable, that are very hard to be comprehended, and in deep down the important thing would be that the families feel that that group of laws that are part of a code does not pursue anything but their protection. And a new electoral code. I know that you have some preoccupation, some concerns on the electoral code, but it is true that the electoral laws of Venezuela, that are laws that are very advanced and very complete, sometimes are also complex in their application, and sometimes they are also hard in the elements of political participation. If a political party and many signings and the stamps in here and there that establishes the element of discretion. Well, let's look for the way that the same confirmation of the electoral power, even if when it's constitutional, Alexander, who has become an expert in commissions of electoral activities, can give faith that it is a process that is kind of messy, and we are obliged, it was mentioned by Acting President Delcy Rodriguez in her speech of the past January 15th, to look for a way to accelerate all of the procedures of the Republic. As a fundamental element, there are the proposals of laws, of initiatives of the national executive that were brought here by the acting president Del Cielo Ina Rodriguez. There's the three laws that we are going to approach immediately. The first one is the law of partial reform of the organic law of hydrocarbons, and we cannot have any kind of preoccupation or fear regarding that law. We have created new laws that adapt to the new economical reality of Venezuela, the law of new entrepreneurships, the law of economy that is communal, the law of the digital economy, which we haven't approved, but it has always been part of the legislative plan, and the reforms to the law of banking, and we have started process of reformations of law to adapt to the new times. How are we not going to work, for example, with the law of hydrocarbons? It is true that this law of hydrocarbons consecrates in a fundamental way the rights of the Republic, but it is also a law that, let's say, happens very well when we are making reference to the petroleum that is already being produced, to say in some way, for example, those petroleum fields that already have the investment to be able to produce petroleum, and petroleum underground does not exist. That is the truth, that petroleum needs to be turned into schools, into hospitals, into highways, into houses for those who do not own houses, in first houses for the young. So we have to look for a way with a successful model, which is the anti-blockade law that is already being approved and that has been the key for the increase of the petroleum production in Venezuela, even in conditions of terrible blockades. That model needs to be discussed to turn it into a reformation of the law of hydrocarbons. The organic law for the protection of the socio-economical laws is fundamental. The protection of the income of the people in the government of President Maduro, despite the blockade and the immense difficulties and the sanctions, it was started a process of recovery of the salary, and it has been geometrical, the growth of the income from the moments of biggest difficulties. But it has been an income that doesn't have a legal basis because it has been based in an economy of war, and I believe it is a good moment to develop laws of protection where the people know which is the movement forward of the process of the income of the people. There's also an element that is important. Venezuela overcame the control of prices and substituted by a system of prices that were agreed upon. That system of agreed upon prices must be present in a law that protects especially the people. I don't know if you have noticed, for example, that the dollar, the price of the so-called parallel dollar, has descended from over 900 bolivars by dollar, has descended almost in 100% to being closer under the 400 bolivars by dollar, almost 400. That is much less than half, and I wonder, the prices in Zambia were reduced after the dollar went down. They need to do it. That is their obligation, because sometimes it happens that the prices increases because the dollar went up, and when the dollar goes down, they act as cowards. That can happen. can't happen. That is why the law of the socio-economical protections for the life of consensus and for the life of agreement, and also through the way of the competency in the case systems between the privates as well, because they act crazy, some of them, not all. There needs to be a mechanism where people say that there's a law that protects me, there's a law that protects me. And of the three most important laws in this, we have always worked in the National Assembly, and it would seem that it has a gypsy curse, because that law of agilizing the procedures, we have never accomplished what the people have wanted, which is to stop the procedures and the stamps and all of the things that stop that Venezuelan men and women can be able to access in a quick way and in an adequate way, and they can access any procedure with the Venezuelan state or with the regional power or with the municipal power or for any type of procedure. It is not even the simplification of the procedures, it is the acceleration and optimizing of the procedures and administrative procedures of the public administration. It is the act of acting President Rodriguez for once and all, for people to feel that they do not have to go through the situation of going to start a procedure before the Venezuelan state. We also have other 9 laws that the National Executive is proposed to be reformed: the law of mining, the law of the Committee of Exports, the law of social economical rights, the law of intellectual property, of AI, of natural medicine, of the digital rights, of cybersecurity, the law of the national electric system, the law of the rational use of energy, the law of telecommunications. This is very important, the law of peace and of national coexistence, to create a real umbrella of protection, a real dome of protection to the peace of Venezuela and to the right that we Venezuelan men and women have of living in peace, especially after the recent experience that led to what was never imagined, to an attack, an air attack against the capital and other cities of Caracas, and to the kidnapping of the President of the Republic and of the First Lady Cilia Flores. Here I introduce that it will be the disposition, the strength, the initiative, at least of the bench of the homeland, the rescuing of the constitutional president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, and of the First Lady Deputy Cilia Flores. I wish we are accompanied in the respect of the constitution, of the laws, and of peace by the deputies of the opposition. But this is an initiative, this law of the National Executive, that pursues establish a mechanism of coexistence in all of the areas. We have moved forward. For example, a law that I remember we approved in the last legislature, the law of the Judge of Peace. It was moved forward because it allows the solution of controversies that are generated in the communities and in the neighborhoods, that are generated in the urban areas, without the necessity to go to the justice system called ordinary. But the idea of this law, of the initiative of President Rodriguez, the idea is that it also includes the elements and events of political dialogue between the political sectors of Venezuela, that includes an economical dialogue with the economical sectors of the country, a social dialogue with the working men and women, the farmers, the fishermen and women, a process not only of dialogue but of search for the purpose of coexistence in peace of Venezuelan men and women. like the judge of peace, resolve the controversies between neighbors, that this law helps resolve the controversies between Venezuelan men and women without any kind of interference. And we also have the proposals that lead to 29 laws in total, that are the proposals that we bring to be approved in the year 2026. In total, there are 29 laws, of which 12 are initiatives of the National Executive and 17 are initiatives of the commissions, the permanent commissions of the National Assembly. We have a lot of work. We have work and we must comply. We are obliged to collaborate in the maintaining of the peace of the Republic. We are obliged to collaborate in the construction of an economy that is strong, of an economy that is proved of many obstacles, and we are obliged to build a way of prosperity that is the only prosperity that is human, which is the prosperity of all. It is not worth to build a strong economy, to build an increase of the economical activity for a few to end being those in favor and helped by it. There's even an initiative of Acting President Rodriguez that will be published, and there are projects in some web page for there to be known all that has been created by the concept of the selling of the petroleum, or the new initiatives of mining of petroleum, or the new shapes of the economy, all that is turned into an income, and what each cent of what was income is wasted and used, and for people to know and see it, and for people to be able to talk with all of us. That is our work, and I wish that when December 15th of this year comes, 2026, we manage to say mission accomplished. It does not mean that these laws are forcing us to tie ourselves to that plan that we approved here today, but that those laws are a guide. They are a proposal, but initiatives of a different type appeared from part of the deputies, or from part of the Venezuelan people, or the National Executive, or from any other organ of the public powers. They're welcomed, and we will attend them. Thank you very much, presidents, vice presidents, and of the permanent commissions of the National Assembly, and thank you very much also to the groups of opinion that live in this assembly.
We're live at this moment in the National Assembly as deputies were assessing the work of this legislative body in the new reality of Venezuelans, to accompany them in the construction of a strong economy, to consolidate peace, security, profound democracy. And for this new legislative period, deputies will work on 8 new codes, including a criminal code that guarantees real justice, also a social code to protect women, indigenous people, farmers, scientists, families in general, of course a new economic code, and deputies will also work on passing 29 new laws, such as the hydrocarbons law, communal law, and reforms to the banking laws. All of this is what the deputies will be working on in the upcoming months. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with teleSUR English for more information on this matter.